All right. Hey, good evening, everyone. It is 7 o'clock and looks like we have everyone present. So I will entertain a motion to open.
Second.
We'll, as a reminder, we'll be doing roll call votes in alphabetical order. So, Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Wordman,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Sullivan, aye. We are open for business. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the first Finance Committee of the meeting of the year of what is going to be the first of many. Back in full session, and as most of you know, this is where things start to pick up. This is where it starts to get busy, especially with the year we have coming up. I think it's gonna be one of them are more challenging in recent years. So welcome back, those, even if you didn't want to. And I would like to say, because first time I've seen him, congrats to Chief McCormick.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Congrats, well deserved.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
So, all right. So, what I think I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at the FY22 budget assumptions sheet that I sent out to all of you. And Todd and John were good enough to put this together. I had a meeting with them on Friday with Kenny Mitchell as well to sort of start making our way through this. So what I'd like to do is, I assume everyone sort of had a few minutes to look over it briefly. I'm going to sort of walk through it line by line. We can see if there are any questions, and then we can sort of look at a general discussion as we move forward. So, we'll start with number one, new growth. Increase in new growth over last year, and that's sort of certified building activity from the assessors. They say that could be a little bit higher, but they think that's the firm number we'll be walking into for new growth. So up, but only up $107,000 over last year. So state aid and local receipts. These are the big ones that we don't know. Indications are that both may not exceed last year's. So what we're looking at is using the numbers from FY21 as a placeholder. And those will be where I don't want to say hard and fast, but we don't anticipate to know those for the next, they usually take a couple months to come in. And so these are the assumptions that we've sort of all agreed to march forward with. Ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation, 525 in FY21, 600K in fiscal year 22. Increased costs related to the ambulance operation. Line item 5, free cash subsidy transfer station enterprise. So last year, I think we looked at I know it was $176,000 subsidy to the transfer station.
Hey, Kevin, I'm going to duck out for just 1 second.
Yeah, sure. This year, Todd has estimated that will increase to about $178,000. So the transfer station costs are right now running higher than revenue. So we should anticipate having to subsidize that again this year. Line item 6, free cash subsidy for the recreation enterprise. Last year was $87,000. FY22, town accountant Todd Hassett is estimating $122,000. Again, recreation costs have increased and our revenues are not keeping pace. So last year, the free cash subsidy was 450K. FY22, there's only about 111,000 for appropriation, down over 75%. And that is sort of the remainder of the free cash that will be left to appropriate after the appropriations we made last year to fill holes in the budget. So that's where we are with our revenue assumptions going into this fiscal year. Looking at the expenditure assumptions, free cash usage for middle school debt pay down. Last year was 22,000. FY22 will be $231,000. The free cash wasn't used last year, but it can be used in FY22. Line item 9, Whitman Hanson Regional School District assessment amount. This is always the big number. Last year, $11.2 million. This year, $12.6 million is the initial number that we've received. It's a difference of it's a $1.4 million increase over last year. It's based on, they've made some assumptions there, but that's the number they're anticipating. That equates to about a 4% assessment. So those of us who have done this long enough know that it's not, I don't think we've settled on 4% in a very long time. We usually are up 7-8%, but this is 4%. Number 10, the 2-mile busing. Again, they're anticipating a 5% increase in costs on that placeholder. South Shore Votech as well, a 5% increase from FY21 to FY22. Line item 12, Norfolk Aggie. Last year was $63,000. This year, in FY22, they're estimating there are going to be 3 students attending Norfolk Aggie. It'd be an increase of about $36,000 on that line item. County retirement, 1.6 million in FY21, 1.8 million in FY22, about 11% increase. And that's the actual number from the county that Todd's received. So that is a firm number. State assessments, last year 160K, this year 164K, 2.5% increase. And again, this is a wait and see from the governor's budget before we make any adjustments to this. Number 15, group insurance, FY21, $1.9 million. FY22 estimate $2.1 million, a 12.31% increase based on current enrollment and a 6% health insurance. 16, risk management, slight increase, 5%. So then we get into the lines 17 through 21, which we have not, they are not making any assumptions on those yet. That would be, the pay increase for town employees. The capital plan has been placed on hold. The school capital plan, is on hold. And, there's still 25 existing school related articles on the books for about $714,000. And then, we still have the ROC state grant to fund our 400K assessment for our participation there. So as of right now, beneath that, you can sort of see the free cash. The FY20 certified free cash was about $1.95 million. FY21 fall special town meeting, we allocated about 1.2 million of that. Line item B would be estimated snow and ice to go over. C, middle school HVAC, another 231K. The Winter Street capital project, which I don't have a lot of information on that. I'm going to need to get some more. So I'm going to make myself a note here. Has anyone heard anything about that? I'm not familiar with that project.
ahead, Nat.
Letter E, free cash subsidy to the transfer station. Again, $178,000 out of free cash is what they're estimating using. And then F, a free cash subsidy to the recreation enterprise of about $122,000, leaving us an available free cash subsidy to the FY22 budget of $111,000. That's all that's left. So,
Ouch. Yeah.
ouch. So that, that puts us with not a lot of room to maneuver going forward into this budget year, where last year they allocated that to get us over the hump of the assessment, the school assessment. But as we all sort of anticipated, we are right back to where we started at square one. And it is doesn't leave us a lot of room. So there's no parachute on this one. There's no way to bail ourselves out with free cash for the amount that we currently are going to end up owing.
When do we typically get the governor's budget numbers?
I'm gonna say,
Serves, I want to say around March.
yeah, I would say March,
Okay.
April time frame. I think last year it was even later. But yeah, March, April. So that's sort of a quick rundown overview of where we are. Any discussion on some of these items?
Yeah, I mean, and my 2 cents, Kevin, is that some of these things are discussion is kind of later on down the road, like, 2% increase for town employees. We have it as a placeholder. What's that going to balance out to? Is that going to eat up half of that free cash? Memory serves, I want to say that across the board would be about 40,000-ish, 40 to 42. So in terms of adding 111 to supplement the budget, I would say half of that or 40% of it will go to that 2% increase.
Right. And
So
so
to your overall point about it not having a lot of wiggle room, I mean, that just further makes the point.
right. And at these assumptions that have been entered, we're looking at about a $2 million deficit right now. Where we sit right now, using the assumptions from last year of the governors, that's assuming that those revenue projections are good. If there's significant decline, or if there is, where they predicted a sort of level funding of local receipts, but if people, because of what happened with COVID, if they didn't pay their taxes, that's going to be down. So there's a possibility that $2 million is the rosiest number we're looking at, a $2 million deficit, which in my time here, I don't think we've ever had a deficit that large at first pass. Mike, do you remember anything that large?
No, I don't think we've ever gotten to be a number like that. And, I mean, you're looking at almost a 10% haircut coming out of the gate.
Right.
And as we've said, as you made mention, it's not like we think we have some, alternatives to get blood from a stone here.
Right. No, absolutely. And this was sort of the warning that we sounded last year, was that there is no easy way out. It was a 1-year fix, and we're here now, and there's no.
Well, it was a double-edged sword, Kevin, and that is not only did we use the piggy bank to plug the hole, but I think there are going to be a lot of people that are going to forget that the agreement with Whitman on the school issue, that theoretically created another $500,000 hole
Right.
because of that being only what it was at 800. So our shortfall was manageable, but now it's not only were we on the hook for that 800, but we've got to backfill the 500 plus whatever the increase is, and that's how you get to that 1,400,000 or so increase. So, you know, you've got like a $600,000 swing just in the schools, but most of that we knew was coming.
Mhm.
The case is that, you know, how you fill that with everything else going up except the incoming receipts.
Absolutely.
Is that school number with the wealth-based system in it, or is that even factored into it?
That's factored in. That is all the talk of methods. That is the method now.
Right,
There's
so
no-
that number plus their increase is in there. That comes to the 12%.
Yes. Yep. So that is the number. Yeah, at least we don't have to worry about that anymore. Is figuring out which method we're going to use.
Recreation, apparently that guy disappeared. Why, they haven't done anything for the last little
I
bit.
know.
So I'm not sure why we're feeding them 122 grand for nothing that they've done. I mean, the transfer station isn't that bad, although it's still more than we've ever wanted to pay, but recreation's kind of throwing me for a little loop.
The only thing I can think of, Ken, is at least recreation has some method to generate some sort of income, albeit incredibly managed. And I can see how it's been stymied because of COVID this year. You know, actually, if you think about it, I would have almost more of an objection to the transfer station number being as high as it is, because that's a very finite revenue stream of you're either buying the bags or you have a sticker, and that's it. At least with recreation, look, God knows I'm not the biggest fan of the enterprise fund, and we've talked ad nauseum about that before, but there's at least other sources of revenue for them to generate. Keep in mind too, that part of that 122 that they're asking for is probably plugging the one-time 35,000 they got from Netflix that doesn't happen every year.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it is. It's just recreation costs higher than revenues, but they haven't done anything. So I'm not sure what we're paying, you know what I mean? They've done nothing this year other than pay their employees, which obviously we've had to do. So there really was very little cost other than paying their employees. That money should have been there because that's what we established last year. But I mean, that's really all I see there, that and the school one. I mean, I don't, like I said, we'll have to do a lot of work and get finite numbers before we bust through the whole thing. But that was the free cash thing we did last year. Like you said, we blew it all last year to get by, and now we got nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, I also can't recall a time, you know, I've been doing this for a while, and I can't ever recall seeing a free cash amount that low.
Mm.
You know, when we've ever said, hey, this is all we've got left to appropriate. And I mean, there's some aspects too that aren't even addressed in this, because I want to say, I'd have to look at this. There is a capital bylaw that requires us to spend 1% of the operating budget on capital projects every year. And there's none in here. So, you know, by that bylaw, there has to be some sort of capital improvement done. So that would have to be, you know, maybe that Winter Street, whatever that project is, covers that, you know, it's 1% of the operating budget, but I'm not so sure that that's accounted for either. So
I mean, they got 3 million down the bottom for 23 capital.
yeah. Well, that's I will say that's received, not allocated.
Yeah.
So that's the $3 million wish list is there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look, let's say, I guess if you look at the town number, you know, 950K is all that's allocated for the town. The majority of them are for the school district.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably looking at maybe a sander or something for the highway, maybe something for the police or fire.
Mhm.
In the
I mean,
town.
we've all glanced at the capital improvement matrix,
Mhm.
and there are some heavy projects that keep getting kicked down the road. There's vehicle purchases. There's potential building changes or new buildings that are on that plan, but I don't know how you can't execute it now.
Nope. Perfect. All right, thanks.
Anyone else have any comments or questions or insights that I can reach back out to the town accountant or the town administrator with?
Well, to Ken's point about the money going for recreation, how'd they get to that number? I guess my question would be, if you're telling me that's what the plug number is going to be from taxation, there must be some draft of what Todd is already anticipating what a budget would be. So, it's kind of like one piece of the equation, and it would be nice to know how they got to that number.
Okay, I will definitely ask that
I
question.
can speak to some of Ken's questions, I would think, in terms of, um, is it that high because they didn't do anything and they don't anticipate being able to book but still paying people, or is there any improvement in there?
And I believe part of that too, Mike, is that they are anticipating people being vaccinated and being reopened in full by the summertime.
Yeah,
I don't know for sure, but that's part of the estimate. I think of what they're accounting for. They had no revenue last year. As you mentioned, their projects, their Netflix, that all dried up. Now we're looking at sort of a year and a half worth of expenses that need to be covered in a year's budget. So, but I will definitely ask those questions. We'll get those answers.
I think too, they were trying to do some different kind of, I know they've had some smaller events there. They've done some work with some of the local scout troops to try to get them back involved from a revenue aspect. But obviously with everything going on, they're a little bit handcuffed with what they can do and with the cove being shut down and whatnot. So it'll be interesting. Hopefully, knock on wood, they can get some revenue in there at some point later this year once that does open up. But we'll see what happens.
Amy, any questions?
No, sorry.
No worries. Just want to make sure everyone had a chance.
Yeah.
Michelle?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
so
Right.
Oh, go ahead,
just
Mike.
one
Sorry.
other question on that, Kevin, the ambulance receipts going up. So the discussion on that was basically that we are trying to get as much as we can without completely looting that account. Is that more or less how I'm reading this?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I hate to say it, it's not like we haven't been watching for a couple of years and telling our community that this is the storm that's been on the way. Obviously, last year was a year that nobody could see coming from that aspect, but there's been such a contingent of people fighting new revenue opportunities within the town and shutting that down and saying, well, we don't want to raise taxes. We got to figure out a way to get money somehow. It's not like we can completely cut off all purse string options and then not be surprised when our expenses go up. But I think I won't speak for everybody in the group, but I don't think anybody's shocked to see like we're coming into another year with, oh no, now we got to figure out where this money's going to come from. I mean, it's consistently getting tougher, and there's a contingent of folks that seem to be on a path to continually make it tougher, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's a shame we can't go to a town meeting with some folks a little more enlightened with the situation we're in and the group of folks that are helping drive this situation, which is very unfortunate, right? That we're going to be here because we're getting to a point where we're going to have to make, we've already had the last 2 or 3 years look at serious cuts. It's like, well, there's only so much we can cut. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what storm comes, not just through this year, but looking out 3 to 5 years. I mean, we got to figure something out as a town.
Well, it's communication of if if we want things to stay even the same, then we've got, we've got to look at some form of an override, either that or more or less, just in simple terms, everything gets scrolled back at least 10%. Take your pick. But at least, to Patrick's point, be knowledgeable of it, have the information of here's going to be the final choices.
Well, I look at some of these other towns too that are raking in literally millions of dollars in new revenue from certain angles that quickly got shut down in this town. It
Yeah.
sure as heck be nice to have $1.5 million or $2 million coming in over the last year that we're not seeing now, and it's unfortunate that we're in the situation we're in. But even that, looking at our town meeting, I mean, I think when we were out on that football field and how many people showed up because it was school budget time. Right. And it's like, well, there's more to town than the school. I completely support the schools and everything else. People know my opinion on that, but it'd be nice to have the turnout at some of our next meetings when it's not just school budget time too, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the narrative now, is that our backs up against the wall. Last year we had the golden parachute, we had our way out, and the town chose to exercise it. They chose to do something that we haven't done in a very long time, and pushed this problem down the road. Now we're sort of up against the wall because there is no movement. So this large number is going to have to be covered in some manner, and I think it's going to force, Pat, like you said, people to make some tough decisions about what direction they want this town to take. And I think it's just the nature of where the town is headed. But okay.
One thing, like, I'm just looking at the health insurance, like the group insurance. Does anyone review that? That's a big jump. That's 12%.
Yeah, so usually what we'll see is, in my experience, Todd usually overestimates that number, and then we pull it back when we get closer, because he looks at it, with the insurance, he's done a great job in the past few years of sort of estimating that number and then saying, okay, we have a little bit of clawback, but never has it. I can't remember a time where we've gone and said, oh, we're way over, we're way under, we need to bump that line up even more. It's usually ends up finishing a little bit less than that, but but you never know what's going to happen.
But that's a tough spot the last couple of years. Thankfully, he's done that, because imagine having to go through all this other stuff and then they're like, oh, by the way, it's an extra couple 100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this group's done an incredible job the last couple of years, kind of balancing and fighting through this stuff. It's becoming a tougher and tougher fight.
I also think the initial estimates that come out on those, not only does Todd put in a little wiggle room, but I think the initial estimates always seem to be higher than what the actual is. I remember looking at getting some of these initial estimates and they're like, oh yeah, we're forecasting 14% increase. And then the actual ends up being 7 or 6.
Right.
So,
which is a relief, but not enough of a relief
Yeah.
to cover our current deficit.
6 is probably extremely generous on the low side. 10 would probably be 8 to 10 would probably be pretty accurate on the high side. It's about what Plymouth County's averaging. They, for years, have used their pool of cash, their little rainbow, parachute to help us out. I think they used $4 million last year. I don't know that they'll have that this year to put towards it, but like you said, it usually does come in a little less.
All right, and sort of in conjunction with what Pat mentioned about communication, I'd like to take a few minutes and sort of assign our departmental liaisons that we'll be using. I think last year was a bit of an odd year where we got caught up in COVID and it went so late, and then everything was sort of on the fly. This year, it's going to have to be about early, open, and honest communication. So I've got sort of the big one, I always open our meetings up for the individual department heads to come in and give us a rundown of where their budget is and where they're moving. But I want to look at assigning specific liaisons for the bigger departments, the bigger dollar departments. So that when this starts to get, when we have to put a little more effort into some of these, that we have some good communications back and forth. So the departments I've picked out are police, fire, school, recreation, board of health, and water. Any other ones I'm forgetting? Not to minimize the other departments, but they're usually very, they're lower dollar figures. They're ones that Todd has shepherded through. And we can look at assigning liaisons to those later, but any sort of big movement will come from those major departments. All right. So that being said, does anyone want to volunteer for police?
Well,
All right.
Not that I'm backing away. I don't particularly care. It's, you know,
Sure.
Whatever is left after everybody else has their choice is fine with me.
So I will probably take the school myself because they've already requested a lot of meetings, and I think it'll just be probably beneficial unless someone really is dying to be the liaison of the school committee.
Take them to the team. Good for you.
I figured I wouldn't get a lot of objection on that.
Sorry, my internet keeps kicking out, so I just totally missed all of that.
Oh, we didn't hear what we nominated you for.
Only imagine, Mike.
So next one would be the fire department.
Again, I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
matter to me.
All right, then why don't we do, I'm trying to remember who did it last year. I can't remember, but Pat, you want to take the fire department?
Yeah, I was trying to get off of mute. I'm happy to take them.
Recreation, Mike
Uh,
or Ken?
Whatever.
Ken, you want to take recreation?
Sure, that's fine. They won't like me, but that's fine.
Mike,
Yeah.
that
yeah, I didn't have an objection. I didn't think they were going to get along with me.
Mike,
Same for Board of Health too. So what difference does it make?
I would say Mike, that leaves Mike and Amy, that leaves Board of Health and Water. So
It doesn't matter.
Should highway be in there or DPW?
you're right. Thank you. I forgot about that. Highway. Yep, highway should definitely be in there. So let's say Board of Health, Mike, and then Amy, sort of water and highway, because they're, I feel, closely. You could almost put them in one department and call it like the Department of Public Works or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
Good. That's what a concept.
yeah.
Do they have a new person in charge over there? Who's in charge over there?
I'm not sure.
Highway? Yeah, no, there's a new person at Highway.
They
New-
hired somebody.
Knew
new,
when
the
they fired the guy they hired.
other guy's got fired.
Oh, that I didn't realize. So
They,
the
Yeah.
guy, the guy who's,
He didn't last long.
they changed that to like highway surveyor from, they changed it to-
highway superintendent.
and now he's gone?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I
don't think he was
believe
there long
they-
enough to write the name on the new card.
I want to say, Amy, that the gentleman who was remember there was a gentleman from Halifax who was the interim one.
No.
Briefly, he filled in on a temporary basis. I don't know if he's still filling in or if they brought him back to fill it in, but I will get all the departmental contacts for all of you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Kevin, I don't know if we had anybody on recreation, but if we didn't, you can throw me on it too. I'll take that with fire.
I put Ken on there.
All yours, Ken. Enjoy.
Thanks. I don't think they have a guy either, do they? He's gone, right?
Yeah, he's gone. I don't know who's acting. There's I need like an org chart to figure out who's who up there. So Okay, I think that assigns the big liaisons. If we need to, if there are other departments that we think need an actual liaison to work with them, we'll do that. But we'll invite. I'll start sending out my invites to invite the department heads on to sit down and present their budget and discuss with us the challenges facing them going forward. All right.
So by the 31st, you are to have had copies of the budget by then?
That's what they say, right?
Well, that's, I said, kind of phrase that appropriately, like to have had.
Right. Well, I mean, Todd and John, I know have put some work into it. I'm also looking for, an opportunity for us to meet in person, because sometimes going through those budget books is just easier sitting down in a group in a room, albeit socially distanced or whatever the requirements are now. But looking to go in that manner.
Could we do the selectmen's room just on an off night, like on a?
Yeah, we just have to start meeting on off nights. So, if that's something that people want to do, if we want to look at, we've traditionally met Tuesday night. There's nothing that says we have to meet Tuesday nights. If we want to look at meeting an off night so we can all sit down together in a room, that's, not mandatory, but those of us who are comfortable doing it can sit down in a room and start working through the book. I'm okay with that too.
Works for me.
All right. So the only other item I had was I have to submit tomorrow my finance committee report, my annual report for 2020. My yearly letter that I write, that they print in the book that nobody reads, outlining the challenges we've faced. And I just finished that. I'm going to see if there's a way to share my screen. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Is it large enough to read?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, if everyone can take a minute to read that, that would be great. Now I can tell how many of you need glasses and don't.
Walt Whitman himself couldn't have written a finer letter.
I can't read it. So. Sorry.
Amy, are you sitting by? You're obviously sitting by. Are you by your computer? I can try and forward you a copy of it, or.
Yeah. Email it to me. I'll read it on my phone. It's like just on the screen that I'm on. It's really like all kind of clumped together. It's not from you.
Okay.
See it.
Once everyone's done, I'll close out that screen and then I'll share it in an email if I think I can do that. Does anyone else need it via email?
I'm good. I read it.
I'm fine.
Well said, Kevin. Well said.
Is everyone good reading it? I have to close it out so I can email it to Amy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, I'm good.
All right, Amy, I just sent it.
Okay.
Anyone else have any, we'll give Amy a few minutes to read that. Anyone else have any, anything they want to discuss, open discussion about where we're going, what we need to do? Anyone have any restrictions or anything that's taking the place of that? And I know, Ken, you probably will end up having to go to a couple selectmen's meeting for Pembroke or something like that. So just let us know and we can work around that.
I think there's currently Wednesdays, so yeah, I'll figure it out.
So my annual report too grim to
All right, spot on.
okay.
No, I think it was perfect. And, to like what Patrick was saying earlier, it's kind of, there's not an endless supply of money. We have to be smart and people have to realize that we just can't keep taking it from places that it doesn't exist.
I mean, next year you might not have paper to write it on, so. Take this one where you can get it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
All set, Amy? Okay, then entertain a motion to accept the Finance Committee report for 2020.
Second.
Motion's made by Amy, seconded by Michelle. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Dugan,
Aye.
Mr. McCormick,
All right,
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Ms. Werdeman,
I
Sullivan, aye. All right, I will submit that for placement in the town report for 2020. Okay, I guess just to wrap it up, we've got our liaisons. A reminder, this is sort of where we start meeting more frequently. I hope everyone had a good holidays and a good rest, because we'll be going straight out here for a little bit. I think there's not as much, now that we've lived almost a year in these pandemic conditions, I don't think there'll be as much give or delay with the process. Last year was a unique process. We're also going to look at, I spoke with Kenny, and we're going to look at trying to do some informational meeting nights, open forums to get the word out there, to talk to the town, to try and give people the opportunity so that we're not all sitting there in the end and they say, well, we never knew this. So we're gonna try and coordinate a little bit better with the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, and increase our visibility to the town, answer the questions so that in the end, they can't say we didn't make the case early and often. So I will be, we'll be reaching out, and maybe we'll do some different focus groups or Q&As, or we open up one of these Zoom meetings to I hate to say open it up just blatantly, because you'll get people who commandeer it, but I suggest to the town administrator maybe put up some sort of survey where people can submit their questions and we go on and answer them, sort of in a live stream format. But we'll figure it out. We'll get it done, and we're going to be creative with some of the options this year. So
That's a good idea. And Kevin, I was going to say, you can do like a webinar Zoom where people can just type into the Q&A so that they're not like just
right.
all over.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. And then, we could moderate it and take turns sort of answering the questions.
Yeah.
I would
Add, as we go through this, we've talked about, and this maybe piggybacks on you getting together with Kenny. I think we get to a point that the budget's coming down the wire. It's well, what are you guys going to say on this one? And what are you going to be on this one? Because we want to vote with you or or match it or whatever the case may be. I think we make an attempt to try and have, one or two of the selectmen talk with us in terms of, so any exchange of ideas are going both ways as to why we're viewing something one way and maybe they didn't think about it, or why the selectmen are viewing something one way and we're not thinking that way. Any likelihood we would be able to have that, or are we back in they're meeting Tuesdays, we'd be meeting Tuesdays, and we're looking at John as the TA to kind of be the intermediary?
No, so Kenny and I talked about that on Friday, and we both agreed that we think, last year there was a lot, not between the two towns, there was a lot of animosity going back and forth to settle, the differences. That's sort of all in the past. So I think we're going to look at increased communication between our committee and the selectmen. And I asked for Kenny, on this one particular issue, the schools, we need them to be a little more vocal and communicate a little bit better with Whitman, because we've always got this done in the past. We've always gotten to a number together that was amicable. Last year was the first year it was not really amicable, and he agreed that there was a lot of unknowns. There was a lot of everyone keeping it close to the vest, trying to play some deal. And, in the end, I think we didn't really start talking until it was too late. We were already so far down the road that it was pushed. And when we got there, there was no communication, I think, between the towns. So everyone's agreed to a little bit more, better communication this year. Whitman has a brand new town administrator who I believe just started either this week or last week. So it's going to be a different person, different relationship. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that we need to start this process early. So it's going to be a heavier lift than last year. But, we're going to have to start making some tough decisions, and we're going to have to come to the citizens with a unified voice from town hall, from all of us. So,
Yeah.
all right. That is all I have.
Did you say that
There's
there
nothing
was
else.
another person didn't you say a couple months ago you had somebody to join us?
I thought Sean said someone joined us. He had someone who was joining us, but I never heard anything back from Sean. I've never heard back from anyone else. If there is someone, I thought Sean said that he was appointing someone, but then he said that the gentleman he was appointing, his wife just gave birth. So I don't know if, he got caught up with being the parent to a newborn and it all went to the side. Maybe he saw the craziness that was this past cycle and said, you know what, maybe I'll pass on that. But I'll circle back with Sean. Why, did you have someone who wants to join, Amy?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. Didn't know if you had
Still looking for a secretary.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I gotta jump. I know we're not adjourned, but I gotta jump.
Okay.
Bye.
We'll see you.
Yeah, Mike.
Bye.
With that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Well, someone needs to make the motion first.
No.
A motion to adjourn. Yep.
You did.
Okay. Amy seconded. Mr. McCormick,
Yes.
Mr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Werdeman,
Aye.
Ms. Wright,
Aye.
Mr. Sullivan, aye. We are adjourned for the night. Thank you, guys, and I will be in touch soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Bye.
Stay well.